right. It's Sunday somewhere, baby. You're back in church, Father Moo. Well, little time to waste. I hope you enjoyed our last stream. There's a couple other videos from my hardware Eurorack modular going up on the stream as well. They're a lot shorter. I'm thinking of doing something like this where instead of talking into the mic while I program the Eurorack, I will just program it from scratch and film it, but then go back and add some voiceover bits just to explain exactly what the heck I'm doing. That might be beneficial, but again, it might not. You can never tell. But today, we're going to be doing what I promised to do. I still got the file up here. I'm going to go into the manual for the Nord Modular, and I'm going to find modules that I have never used, and I'm going to force myself to build patches using those modules. So that's what we're going to do today. I don't know if I'm going to do it for every stream in the future, but I think it's a good challenge, especially for myself. So the next question is where to start. The in-out group is very boring. For example, I never use 4 outputs because I only have the micro modular, and this module is useless to me because I only have 2 outputs. Something else like keyboard split, I understand how that concept works, but I don't have a keyboard connected right now, and I generally don't build for keyboard inputs, so I don't think I have too much to learn from this guy today. Ditto for the oscillator group. I know that you can use a master oscillator to connect to slave oscillators and so on. I'll probably do this someday, but I feel pretty confident I know that what most of the oscillators do. LFOs might be another thing altogether. Just in my last patch, I used LFO-A, and I realized I rarely do that. The ones you guys probably see me reach for are these guys down here. Clock gen, clock random gen, all the weird random dudes that I love so much. So, yeah, definitely an LFO is going to be a candidate. Envelope group. I definitely don't use this one, so I should do that. Okay. Multi-env. Let's do him today. So, I'm not trying to cheat here. I will, I think what I'll do, I should have done before this video started, is go through the manual and tick off the ones I definitely don't use enough. But I can tell you for today, multi-env here is one I don't use. In fact, I might go so far as to say I never use it. I have probably used it once or twice, but I can't remember, certainly in recent memory, ever doing it. So let's open it up and see what it does. In fact, we have the manual as our friend, so why don't we just read about it. Multistage envelope is a 5-segment time and level envelope with selectable sustain segment. Okay, great. So instead of ADSR, we have AD something SR. We have 5 stages instead of 4. That's interesting right on the start of it. I know there's other hardware synths that have used multi-stage envelopes. I'm pretty sure that FM synthesizers like the DX7, I think the DX7 had 6-stage envelopes, and because of the nature of FM synthesis, having that flexibility in your envelopes becomes very powerful. Yeah. There's an old video in my YouTube archive where I talk about Bob Moog inventing the Mini Moog, and there's a story, it might be apocryphal, but supposedly he was going to use an AD envelope for for the Mini Moog, a 2-stage envelope. And a guy, if my story is correct, a guy named Vladimir Usachevsky, who's a classical composer, told him, you shouldn't do that, man. What you should do is you get an ADSR envelope. And Bob Moog said, why? And he said, if you're going to emulate real-world sounds, if you're going to try and make the instruments of the orchestra, for example, like the bassoon, the trumpet, the trombone, then you're going to need this. And it's not just for the oscillator. It's actually for the filter. So if you had your oscillator going into this and coming out of this, and you set up these knobs, try to look at the little green screen here, you might see the effect they have. If you set up the knobs here so that they make a certain shape, and then you make a very similar shape but not identical for the filter, you will be able to create sounds that are similar to, as I say, brass instruments, trombone, bassoon, clarinet, all the various instruments of the orchestra, and also the different ways that they play, the way that violins can swell into a sound instead of having a harsh articulation. A lot of that comes from adjusting one ADSR for your overall volume of your oscillator or oscillators, and another ADSR on a filter. You don't see me do this in Modular a lot because, as I mentioned before, this matters more for polyphonic sequencing. I fall back on the old AD. But yeah, the point being, ADSR became kind of the standard because the Mini Moog had it. It was monophonic, but when we got polyphonic sequencers and polyphonic synths, ADSRs were still used for the oscillator and the filter. That is not the right window. Where's my manual? But certainly multi-stage envelopes are interesting in their own way. And this one is going to have this selectable sustain element. So sustain is when you hold the key. So this one doesn't force you to have, well, for example, in an ADSR, sustain is always the third stage. So when you hit a key, it builds up to the maximum volume with A, attack, and then it decays to the sustain level with D, and then it holds on the sustain level as long as you hold that key of the keyboard. So if, for example, your sustain level was very low like this, you'd have a loud sound in the beginning which quickly decayed down, but then as you kept holding the key, the note would still be there like in the background, kind of quietly playing. And then finally when you let go of the key, you get R, the release time, before it fades away to 0. So in the multi-stage one, that L is wherever you want it to be, or at least it's going to give you, it may not be in stage 1, we'll find out in a second, but it'll be one of these 4 stages, and you get to pick that using this button. It's pretty cool. Let me just read a little bit more in the manual so I know what I'm getting into. It has a gate. It has an amplitude input. Yeah, that's not surprising. It can be bipolar, linear, or unipolar. Okay, interesting. You can go in multiple directions. So if you want to use it for interesting CV manipulation, these functions will become more useful. Turning the rotary knobs L1, you set the, yep, that's right. T1 to T5, the 5 times. And the graph shows you the picture. And you pick the sustain element. Yeah, that's fine. Input, envelope, output. Oh, I see. Yeah, right. Okay. And then output. So this one, you can put a sound into the input, and the sound will come out of the output. But the envelope output, the control voltage amount of that, has its own dedicated output. Let's just make it. You notice it's only 1.9%. Even these with modulation inputs actually take more resources. Let's look at him here. Okay, yeah, so this is his envelope output. So again, I don't regularly use this, but in terms of making a patch today, I may as well try it. In fact, I'm going to... Oh, yeah, let's poke around with this guy. Wow, look at how much it changed the... Just watch the graph there. It does let you do it on level 1, okay? So you can jump to level 1. That's it at level 2, level 3, level 4. It's on the chart. It's just very low. And it doesn't give you the option of level 5. Let's leave it at 3 for now. Okay. Okay, time to make a patch with this bad boy. What shall we make? Here's something I haven't done before. I was on the Eurorack on the weekend and I was using braids, and I was remembering that braids has a chord mode that I love. So instead of just being a monophonic output, it actually lets you play up to a 4-note chord, which is quite useful in a modular setup. Just because, especially in the older days too, we didn't have a lot of polyphonic outputs. So those 4 notes might go into one filter, but they're still useful in their own way. So I thought to myself, I should put a chord into the modular the same way that the braids does. And I've done it here today just by stacking the oscillators. And I'm programming what must be a E7 chord with an extra root for overtone purposes. And all these oscillators are set the same right now. Let's put them all in odd mode, which will make them something like a square wave. And I might drift their spectral shapes later just to be trippy, but we'll get to that in a second. So we got volume in here. We're going to need the old standards. Other than, I've just discovered a flaw in my plan. It was cool that I found a module I didn't use and I built something with it, but it's not cool that I had no other plan beyond that. So... Sorry, unexpected coughing fit from Father Moo there. But I am gonna have a plan. I'm coming up with one. Multi-envelope, because of the nature of it, it seems to lend itself to longer sounds, longer and slower envelope type sounds. So I guess I'm gonna make something sort of pad-like. Like a synth pad, which goes along with my original plan of making a chord over here. I'm not going to take too much bragging credit for this, although I'm going to take a little bit, and say that I also don't remember the last time I did this. I don't remember stacking 5 of an oscillator, much less a weird Nord oscillator, in order to have a source sound. What I should probably do before I make something really annoying to listen to is drop a filter in here. You guys are probably sick and tired of the classic low-pass filter, so let's give them the bandpass today, which should be made more interesting by the fact that we have 5 oscillators being jammed into it. I think this yellowness means that the volume is really friggin' loud. So there's a often unused button here on the mixer, minus 6 dB, because there's 5 oscillators being jammed into it. And now it's back to green, so that probably means it's not distorting. So that's probably good. And I was going to use just a random note generator, but I can already tell from my own proclivities that I'm going to want a something to play notes that isn't just a single random pulse. So why don't I get a clock gen and divide that mother. And then send it to the pattern sequencer as really slow. Yep, have a billion steps. Use this to trigger this. And this can already be slow as crap. So send this into here. There's our chord. We're going to start getting it. Hold on. Interesting. So since we're experimenting, why don't we send the output here of the envelope into the filter frequency? That means when this is high, the filter will get higher. When this is lower, it'll get lower. Sustain is set as level 3. This is time 3. Don't get confused here. The time points and the level points aren't the same. So, yeah, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get a big sweep at the beginning. That was cool. It's still giving me too many notes to let you hear the whole thing. Oh, you know what would be crazy? What if we mapped this into all of these? Whoa. And then we open these bad boys up. But by different amounts. Is it crazy yet? It's probably not that crazy. It was a good try at being crazy, but it wasn't crazy enough. So it means I gotta unplug all these mothers. As much as I'd like the modulation envelope, and it's still there doing a thing, it wasn't having too much of a dramatic effect on the sound. So now we have a bunch of random boys all connected to the spectral shapes, and we'll dial the spectral shapes all differently, I think. And now we're getting some weird drift. Yeah, let's make some of them all. We're getting a bit closer. It's making these odd. Are you hearing some cool high drifting notes in the chord? I'm hearing it. No, not really. Maybe just the amount was just less. No. The filtration, I think, is what's not doing it for me. Yeah. Let's try a different filter. Ooh, let's try vocal filter. That's crazy. Okay, you can play a note now. Oh, that's right. This one. To replug it. I'm just going to tweak some knobs and set the vocal filter while I cough horribly. Please hold on. Okay, I survived the coughing. We dropped out the older filter. We put in 2 new ones here. Kind of a standby for me to put in vocal filter first and then follow it up with a low pass filter, which still has to be kind of open at the top so you can hear what the vocal filter is doing. I do kind of like this. I like the digitaliness of it, and I like the even a little bit of speed tweaking on the random generators goes a long way, because since they're random, they can often speed up and flutter sort of unexpectedly on you. I'm kind of happy with what I got to here, but I don't love it. Oh, maybe it's because I had level 4. Oh, that's probably why. Couldn't figure out why the ends kept getting cut off, but maybe because level 4 was actually at 0, which is too low to be anything. There we go. I don't even know if this is really, I mean, it is a patch. We're at 70% because we have these 5 hungry oscillators here. Oh, you know what might be? Let's see if we can make this salvageably interesting like this. They always used to tell you when you had a digital synth, oh, it sounds too dry. So what you do is you take a random generator and you plug it into the pitch of the oscillators, but just a tiny bit, so they kind of flutter in and out of tune. Why? Because old analog synths responded to heat and voltage fluctuations, so they would also kind of wobble themselves. The key is to do it just enough so you can hear it, but not enough so that it actually drifts out of tune. I'm going to guess around 20% here, maybe? Not even really hearing it. Maybe there's more freedom for drifting in the higher pitched oscillators. So there were even some like virtual analog synths that came out, and they had a knob marked vintage, and it would basically drift the oscillator pitch like this. It's probably not enough that you can even hear it, but that was the theory. Anyway, a lot of the other patches I've made have been like sort of like little self-contained song machines. This one is just a weird drifty little chord, but sometimes that's what you come up with, especially when you're trying something new. I don't know how far I really got with multi-end for there. I have the feeling that maybe if I spent a bit more care and took maybe just a couple of digital oscillators and then used multiple multi-ends, maybe like 4 of them, and ran 2 of them onto the filters and tweaked them real carefully, they could do a lot more complicated things. But that's not really where this patch ended up going, for better or for worse. But I still like the theory. I gotta learn what all the modules do. Especially, I remember looking at the Nord Modular G2, which is a couple models up for sale on Reverb, and I was thinking of using the Patreon to get one of those. Of course, I'm way ahead of myself, but just started California Dreamin' type stuff. And the G2 has so many more modules, so can I really justify getting that if I haven't? If a third of the modules in this guy I haven't even used yet, I would say no, I can't. So I gotta get on this and learn this more. So that's it for today in church. The Father Moo's still a little bit sick, but he'll get through it. It's just hay fever. Sorry for all the coughing. I guess I'll see you next time we're back in church, everybody. So see you on Sunday. Peace out.